So this demonstration, I will create a blank file. Going to the file, open a new document. We'll be using ActionScript version 3 for this file as well. And you can see, because I set up my default dimensions and FPS earlier demonstration to 32 FPS and 300 by 400, my stage automatically gets all those values now. So the moment you say new file, these are coming by default. Okay. If I want to change it back, I can change it back to white, 550 by 400. Make it default and keep it. So you can keep changing these default values whenever you want. Okay, as long as you know how to do it. Now, in this blank canvas, let's just learn the other techniques of animations. Now, we call these animations the tween techniques. Okay, there are two different ways in which we can do this tween. One is just by adding motion to it, and the other one is by giving an animation in terms of changing the shape. Okay, so Flash has two distinctive techniques to do animations. We call them a motion tween or a shape tween. We're not going to learn shape tween for this lesson. Today, let me just explain to you first of all the motion part of it, which is more than 90%, which is what you're going to use throughout your projects and career. So it's quite important to understand and know how to use the motion tween animation. Now the word tween, which is on your screen, it literally means in between. Okay, it's originated from the Flash itself, and what it does is, as Karen asked me earlier, if he wants to do the intermediate positions of hands from top to bottom, but he don't want to change positions, Flash should do it for ourselves. That's what tween techniques are. By using tween, we only mention the first and the last position of our object. Okay, and in between positions of your objects, Flash will calculate it for you. All you have to mention is your start and the end. Okay, same thing for the shape tween as well. You mention the initial shape, the end shape, and Flash will do in between animation shapes. So that's what shape tween and motion tween means. Now to create the motion tweens, we need a symbol. So let me just take this text, for example, which is on the screen, and you can use these tween techniques to the objects or to the text, whichever you like. So for this tutorial, let me just use a simple technique of using an oval tool. I'm changing the oval outline to black, oval fill color to a kind of gradient pattern, and I'm simply drawing a circle on the stage. Okay, kind of. You want to create a bouncing ball animation, but we don't want to mention intermediate position, so we will be using a motion tween technique. To use motion tween, it is pretty straightforward. We use selection tool, draw the selection so that you can select the whole object. You can do that by just double clicking on the shape as well, so it selects your stroke and the fill color together, or you can just draw the selection from outside like that. So as long as it selects the whole object, that's what we want to do. Now once you do that, simply right click on the object, and Flash gives you options to say create motion tween or a shape tween. Now if I just select motion tween for a while, Flash prompts you with another warning which will say that to create the tween, your shape must be a symbol, a group object. We're going to go in detail about how these symbols work and how do we edit them. But if you don't convert them symbol, then Flash will not do the tweening for you. So all you have to do is just say OK. And you can see Flash will group your object into with an outline, means into a symbol. And the immediate visual change happens in the timeline is you can see the whole timeline has a blue kind of color. And the first number 1 frame will have a black dot, which is the keyframe indication. But your playhead automatically jumps to number 32. Because the moment you add a motion tween by right click, Flash creates 1 second animation for you by default. Okay, now it doesn't jump to 32 by its own, but because your FPS says your FPS is 32 frames per second, that's why by default it gives you 1 second animation. Means in the timeline it uses 32 frames. Okay, so in future it happens to you, Flash will select the number of frames by its own depending on your FPS. So keep an eye on your FPS in future. Now, apart from this, we don't have to do anything. Okay, as long as we have this FPS, if I just go to my control and play this animation, this is how it looks. Okay, the playhead is moving from 1 to 32, but because there is no keyframe at 32, the object doesn't change its position, so there's no effect on the stage. Now to add some effect, to create a bouncing animation, make sure the playhead is at number 32, which is your last frame. If it is not, just hold on to this playhead cursor and make sure it is at the last frame, and simply go to the stage. Make sure the selection tool is handy, and simply click on your object and drag it down to the floor like that. The moment you do that, you will see that a small green black dot has been added to number 32, which is an indication Flash has added automatically a keyframe. You don't even need to do that. Okay, a green line follows from the top position of the object, which is your frame number 1, and last keyframe, frame number 32. Flash will see, do you see the small green dots in between all of that? Do you see here? These are all green dot, means Flash gonna move your ball center point to those locations on its own. And these positions, Flash will calculate for ourselves. We don't do anything for that. Okay? These quite super techniques, which wasn't there in the older versions of Flash. It's only started from CS4. Okay. So if I'll do that, and simply let's go to Control, Test Movie, and you can see a simple bouncing ball animation. Now this is only two keyframe positions. The start position is at the top. The last position is at the bottom. But make sure you have this in your frame set. The playhead, the moment it reaches to the last frame, it jumps back to number 1. That's why you have this a little shift that it is jumping back to number 1. So if you want it softly, it should go back from bottom to the top. You need to add another keyframe in your timeline animations. So what you can do is, you can simply close the test movie, go to, let's say, another instance. Let's say I'm going to go equal intervals, which is 64. Right click there, and you can say insert keyframe, or sorry, we can just press F6 and add a keyframe there. But for that keyframe, we can select the first position of the object as it is. Now here you need a bit explanation. Because motion tween, when you click on the timeline to select just single frame, it doesn't allow you to do that. If it is already motion tween, the moment you click anywhere in the timeline, it selects the entire span of your animation. So if I now want to go back and select only number 1, copy that, then go to number 64 and paste it there. Then you need another shortcut handy, which is pressing down the control key. So what I'm going to do is now, to just copy number 1 keyframe, you hold on your control key or a command key on a Mac, click on number 1 keyframe. Now do you see it only selects that keyframe? Right click on it now by releasing your control, copy frames, scroll horizontally, go to the last keyframe. Again, if you just click, it will select the whole entire motion tween. So you have to keep pressing control, just click on 64, and it will allow you to click only that particular frame. Okay. Now here, I'm just going to right click, paste frames, and you can see it automatically drops the object to the top starting position. When you test your movie, What happened here? Right, I see it's gone. Let me clear that keyframe. Oh, no, sorry. Let me just clear the keyframe. So we pasted that. Grab a keyframe. Go to the last keyframe. Why doesn't paste that? That's my first position. That's my 32 gone. Keep the ball at the floor. So go 1, 32, and for 64, you keep it back. Yeah, I think you don't even need to copy and paste. It's working slightly different because in CS3, CS4, this will be slight differences. But I'll give you the correct shortcut to paste your keyframes as well. For time being, all I've done is I've just extended the frame to 64. And using selection tool, I've physically moved that ball back to the same position. Now if you control test movie, that's what it does. It goes from top to bottom, back to the top. Okay. Now using FPS, you can go back, change the value of FPS, and you can control the animations effect. So you can make it faster, slower, just like that. Let me stop recording.